My name is Alex, and I've always been different. Not in a weird, outsider kind of way, but in the quiet, unspoken ways that make you notice yourself more than anyone else does. At 16, I discovered that dressing up wasn't just something girls did for fun, it was something I craved. The soft fabrics, the colors, the way a perfect outfit or a touch of makeup could completely shift how I felt in my own skin. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once. But it was a secret, one I shared only with my diary and the occasional quiet glance at online tutorials. I lived with my parents in a modest two-story house on a quiet street. My room was my sanctuary. Posters of fashion models and actors I admired lined the walls, shelves stacked with neatly folded clothes I wasn't supposed to own, and a small vanity sat in the corner, cluttered with brushes, lip gloss, and a handful of eyeshadows I had borrowed from my older sister when she wasn't looking. This was my world, private and carefully guarded. School was a different story. I was an average student in most respects, blending in easily with my peers, but the thought of being caught by friends, teachers, or worse, my peers, filled me with dread. Only Emma, my girlfriend, knew a sliver of the truth. Our relationship had been tentative at first, growing slowly over months of shared laughter and long conversations. I was careful not to reveal too much, only hinting at my fascination with fashion and style, always keeping the secret buried beneath casual smiles and shy glances. Then came Ms. Thompson. She wasn't just any teacher. She was the drama teacher, sharp-eyed, creative, and with an uncanny ability to see what others tried to hide. She had a reputation for casting the right students in the right roles, turning shy kids into confident performers, and challenging the entire class to step outside their comfort zones. And somehow, for reasons I couldn't immediately comprehend, she had zeroed in on me. It started innocently. One afternoon, she pulled me aside after class. "Alex," she said, tilting her head with that inscrutable smile, "have you ever considered performing as the lead in our upcoming school play?" My heart skipped. I don't know," I stammered. "I've never acted before." She laughed, a sound that was warm but knowing. "You don't have to act like anyone else. You just have to bring yourself. I think you'd be perfect as the heroine. There's something charming about you that would captivate the audience." Her words were flattering, but they also stirred something deeper. Charm? Captivate? The idea that someone could see me, really see me, even a little, was intoxicating. And then she leaned closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "You'd look cute too," she whispered. That word, cute. It rolled in my mind like a spark igniting something I hadn't dared acknowledge openly. I felt a warmth creeping up my neck, a mixture of embarrassment and excitement. My hands, which I had been fidgeting with, clenched slightly. Cute. Me. Acting. Wearing costumes. Stepping onto a stage where everyone would see me, yet somehow safe under the guise of a character. Thank you," I murmured, trying to mask the fluttering in my chest. "That's settled then," she said, straightening. "I'll see you at rehearsal tomorrow. And Alex, bring your confidence. You'll need it." The next day, I found myself standing backstage, a costume in my hands, heart pounding like a drum. The dress was simple but elegant, a flowing, pastel-colored gown that seemed designed to accentuate every curve, every subtle movement. I hesitated, staring at it as though it might reveal my inner secret just by touching it. Emma's words from the night before echoed in my mind. "You'll look amazing. Just enjoy it." I changed quickly, my hands trembling as I adjusted the gown, smoothed the fabric, and tried not to imagine how I would look to the entire school. My reflection in the mirror was both familiar and foreign. There I was, Alex, but transformed. The soft curl of the wig I had borrowed from my sister, the subtle touch of blush, the gentle sweep of eyeshadow, it all came together in a way that felt exhilarating and terrifying. When I stepped onto the stage, I felt the eyes of my classmates fall on me. The spotlight illuminated every detail, and for a moment, I felt exposed, like I was being judged. But then Miss Thompson's encouraging smile caught my eye, and something inside me shifted. I wasn't just Alex anymore. I was the heroine, confident, radiant, captivating. The applause that followed my first lines was like a drug, a thrill I hadn't expected to feel, and yet couldn't resist. Backstage, after the rehearsal, I caught my reflection again. My heart raced. I had done it. I had embraced this persona, even for a few minutes, and it had felt amazing. But I also knew the danger. The secret I had kept so carefully was now more vulnerable than ever. Miss Thompson had seen me fully, in a way that no one else had, and it was clear she had ideas about how far she wanted to push this transformation. As I left the school that day, costume in hand, I couldn't stop thinking about the thrill of being admired, the intoxicating mixture of fear and excitement coursing through me. Emma's teasing text pinged on my phone. "How was your first day as the star?" I smiled, a blush creeping over my cheeks. Amazing and terrifying. I realized then that my life was about to change. The stage was no longer just a place for acting. It was a place where my secret desires, my fascination with transformation, and my fear of exposure all collided. And somehow, I knew that once I fully embraced this path, there would be no turning back. The days following the first rehearsal were a whirlwind of emotions. Every time I walked into the drama room, I felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety coursing through me. Miss Thompson was relentless, in the best possible way, pushing me to explore every facet of the heroine I was portraying. But as she encouraged me to try different outfits, poses, and expressions, I realized that this wasn't just acting. It was an invitation to fully embrace a side of myself I had long kept hidden. It started with small things. One afternoon, she handed me a headband adorned with delicate flowers. "This will help your character feel softer, more approachable," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Trust me, Alex, you'll look adorable." My hand shook slightly as I adjusted it. I could feel my pulse in my wrists and ears, a mixture of fear and thrill. The word adorable felt like a spotlight being shone directly on my hidden self. I wasn't sure whether to feel embarrassed or exhilarated. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The headband framed my face, highlighting features I had never considered attractive. I felt exposed. Rehearsals became a stage for more than just lines. Miss Thompson introduced makeup into the process, claiming it would help with stage lighting. At first, it was subtle, a bit of blush here, a hint of eyeliner there. But as the days progressed, she encouraged me to experiment more boldly. My heart raced when she handed me lip gloss and whispered, "This will make your smile unforgettable." I hesitated, then applied it carefully, watching in fascination as the reflection in the mirror seemed to shift. There I was, Alex, but transformed, radiant, and undeniably captivating. The thrill wasn't just in how I looked, it was in how I felt. My posture changed. I walked with more confidence, laughed more freely, and noticed the way my classmates glanced at me differently. Some smiles were encouraging, others curious. I could feel the subtle shift in attention, the quiet validation that made my secret obsession even more intoxicating. And yet, lurking beneath the excitement was a constant undercurrent of fear. What if Emma saw me like this? What if someone I trusted didn't understand? The stakes felt impossibly high. Home life became a delicate balance. I spent hours perfecting my look for rehearsals, sneaking borrowed makeup and costumes into my bag. The moment I stepped into my room after school, I would let my secret self breathe, carefully applying eyeliner, trying on shoes with heels I had never dared wear before, smoothing my hair, and adjusting wigs to perfection. Each small victory, each transformation, made me feel both powerful and vulnerable. The more I embraced this side of myself, the more I feared being discovered. Emma noticed the change, of course. She would tease me gently over text, sending playful messages like, "Feeling like a star yet?" or "Don't get too used to all that attention." I would blush, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, unsure how much to reveal. I wanted her to understand, to support me, but I wasn't ready to fully confess. The thrill of secrecy made every rehearsal, every transformation, even more intoxicating. The turning point came when Miss Thompson assigned a solo scene to me, a pivotal moment where the heroine confronts her fears and steps into her destiny. "Alex," she said, her eyes piercing, "this is your moment. I want you to bring all of yourself to it. The world will see you, truly see you. Are you ready?" My stomach churned. Could I? Could I expose this secret side of myself on stage, in front of the entire school? The thought terrified me, and yet, the excitement coursed through my veins like electricity. Rehearsal day arrived. I stood backstage, heart-hammering costume in hand. The dress was elegant, flowing, and perfectly designed to accentuate the character's charm. The wig, a soft cascade of curls I had meticulously styled, felt heavier than usual as I adjusted it nervously. I could hear the audience settling in, the rustle of programs, the quiet chatter. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of Miss Thompson's words, "You'll look cute. You'll captivate them." Stepping into the spotlight was like stepping into another world. The bright lights illuminated every detail, the subtle shimmer of my eyeshadow, the soft blush on my cheeks, the way the dress swayed as I moved. I felt like I was living in a dream, a world where I could fully embrace my secret identity without judgment. And for a brief, breathtaking moment, I was the heroine, not just in the play, but in my own life. But with every thrill came tension. Behind me, the other actors whispered, eyes flicking with curiosity and intrigue. I caught glimpses of Emma in the audience, her expression unreadable, and my heart sank. What did she think? Was she proud, embarrassed, or suspicious? And beyond that, there was the ever-present fear of someone noticing the more subtle details, my carefully applied makeup, the wig, the new poise I had adopted. One wrong glance could unravel everything. The suspense grew during each rehearsal. Miss Thompson pushed me further, introducing more complex scenes, interactions that required vulnerability and emotional openness. In one particularly intense scene, I had to confront a character who mirrored my own hidden fears. I poured everything into it, the excitement, the fear, the longing for acceptance. The result was electric. Applause echoed, my classmates' eyes widened in awe, and I felt a heady mixture of pride and anxiety. The more I embraced this persona, the more I risked exposure, but the thrill was impossible to resist. After rehearsals, the private moments at home became a sanctuary. I would practice lines in front of the mirror, perfecting my gestures, adjusting wigs, experimenting with makeup techniques I had never dared to try. Each transformation was more daring than the last. I felt a new sense of power, a strange confidence that came from inhabiting this dual identity. And yet, every moment was shadowed by fear, the fear of being seen, judged, or rejected. The emotional stakes intensified when Ms. Thompson introduced a photo shoot for promotional materials. I would be featured in posters and programs, representing the heroine to the entire school. The idea was exhilarating and terrifying. I carefully applied makeup, styled the wig, and posed with the precision of someone aware that every detail mattered. Each click of the camera felt like both validation and risk, each image capturing a side of me that I had hidden for so long. Emma, surprisingly, seemed supportive, sending me texts of encouragement. "You're going to shine, and I can't wait to see you on stage." But even her support carried a subtle weight, the fear that one misstep could reveal everything. I was caught between thrill and anxiety, exhilaration and fear, and it was intoxicating. Then came the first dress rehearsal in front of a live audience. My pulse thundered as the curtain rose. The lights, the applause, the eyes, everything intensified the suspense. My transformation was no longer just physical, it was emotional. I felt fully alive, fully exposed, yet fully empowered. The heroine in the play mirrored my own journey, hiding a secret, embracing a desire, confronting fear, and discovering a side of myself I had never dared to show. And as the final scene ended, the applause ringing in my ears, I realized something profound. The thrill of transformation, the power of crossdressing, and the emotional intensity of performance had merged. I was no longer just Alex. I was both Alex and the heroine, a duality that thrilled and terrified me in equal measure. Backstage, Miss Thompson clapped me on the shoulder, her eyes shining. "Alex, you are incredible. Absolutely radiant. The audience will never forget you." And in that moment, the tension reached its peak. I had embraced the transformation fully, but the stakes were higher than ever. Every friend, classmate, and audience member was a potential observer of my secret. The thrill of being seen, admired, and yet vulnerable created a suspense that would follow me until the final performance. I left the theater that evening with a mixture of pride, fear, and exhilaration. The journey had only just begun. The transformation was real, the danger tangible, and the emotional stakes impossibly high. And deep down, I knew that the next step, standing fully in the heroine's shoes on opening night, would test every ounce of courage, desire, and secrecy I possessed. Opening night arrived like a storm. The school auditorium buzzed with excitement, the chatter of students and parents mingling with the nervous energy of performers. Backstage, I clutched my costume tightly, my fingers trembling as the reality sank in. Tonight, every secret, every desire, every hidden part of me would be exposed under the unforgiving glare of the spotlight. The heroine I had practiced becoming for weeks was about to become real in front of hundreds of eyes. Miss Thompson appeared beside me, her presence both reassuring and intimidating. "Alex, remember, this is your moment. Breathe. Own it. You've rehearsed, you've prepared, and you've transformed. Now, let them see you shine." Her eyes sparkled with a mix of pride and something else I couldn't quite place, a mischievous glint that made my stomach twist. The first act went smoothly, each scene flowing as planned. The audience laughed, gasped, and cheered, and I felt a surge of confidence. The transformation was complete, physically, emotionally, even mentally. I moved, spoke, and smiled as the heroine, reveling in the thrill of being noticed and admired. But the closer we got to the pivotal solo scene, the heavier the tension became. I stood behind the curtain, heart hammering. The whispers of the other actors and the shuffling of props faded into the background. This was it, the moment where my dual identity would collide with reality. I adjusted my wig, smoothed the folds of my gown, and took a deep, trembling breath. And then disaster struck. From somewhere in the wings, I heard a sharp gasp. My eyes darted, heart leaping into my throat.
Emma.
She had arrived early, unannounced. My stomach plummeted. What was she doing here? Would she understand? Or would she see everything I had tried to hide? Panic surged, and for a fleeting moment, I considered running, hiding, escaping into the shadows. But the stage awaited, and Miss Thompson's voice echoed firmly in my mind. Own it.
Shine.
I stepped onto the stage, the lights illuminating every detail. The audience's faces blurred, replaced by the overwhelming fear and exhilaration coursing through me. Emma sat in the front row, her eyes wide, scanning me with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. My pulse raced.
Could she tell?
Did she understand the thrill, the secret, the transformation I had been living for weeks? As I began my lines, my voice shook slightly, but I forced it steady, pouring every ounce of emotion into the performance. The heroine confronted her fears, spoke her truths, and revealed her courage, all while I, Alex, struggled to maintain composure under the impossible pressure of exposure. Mid-scene, a sudden obstacle intensified the tension. A prop fell from the set, clattering loudly across the stage. Gasps rippled through the audience. My hands shook as I instinctively adjusted my gown, making sure nothing revealed my hidden identity. Sweat prickled my temples, and the wig felt heavier than ever. Every step, every gesture was a tightrope walk between grace and disaster. Then came the symbolic moment, the one I had both anticipated and feared. A fellow actor accidentally brushed against me, causing the edge of my wig to slip slightly. My heart froze. In that instant, I could see Emma's eyes widen, the audience whispering, and Miss Thompson freezing in the wings. I quickly adjusted the wig, forcing a smile, and continued the scene as though nothing had happened. My hands trembled under the careful movements, but my mind raced with adrenaline. The tension escalated further during the climactic monologue. The heroine revealed her deepest fear to the audience, and I mirrored it perfectly. Fear of rejection, of judgment, of exposure. Every word carried double weight, my own secret entwined with the character's story. The audience was captivated, leaning forward, hanging on every syllable, unaware of the real stakes behind my performance. Then, the moment of ultimate suspense arrived. Miss Thompson had designed a dramatic scene involving a mirror prop, intended to symbolize self-discovery. As I approached, my reflection caught my eye. There I was, Alex, in full transformation, staring back at myself with wide, terrified eyes. The audience saw the heroine, but I saw the secret, the vulnerability, the thrill. For a split second, I wondered if the illusion would hold, if Emma would understand, or if the carefully constructed identity I had maintained for weeks would crumble. And then a surprise twist. From the edge of the stage, Emma stood, rising from her seat, her gaze fixed on me. My heart stopped. Every instinct screamed to flee, to hide, to undo everything. But the audience expected the heroine to deliver her final lines. I took a shaky breath, channeling every ounce of courage into the character. I spoke, moved, and acted as though the spotlight, the audience, and even Emma were part of the performance. The climactic moment reached a fever pitch when another actor stumbled, nearly knocking over a set piece. I had to improvise, balancing on heels I had barely mastered, adjusting my gown, and continuing the monologue without missing a beat. The adrenaline was overwhelming. Each step, each word, each glance at the audience, and Emma's unreadable expression felt like walking on a knife's edge. As the final lines approached, the symbolic transformation became complete. I lifted my chin, let my shoulders fall naturally, and allowed the heroine's confidence to merge with my own. For the first time, I felt fully seen, not as a secret, not as Alex hiding in the shadows, but as a person who could embrace multiple facets of identity, courage, and expression. The applause erupted like a wave, sweeping me off my feet, and yet the shadow of suspense lingered. Backstage, I collapsed into a chair, trembling, sweat-slick, and exhilarated. Miss Thompson appeared, her smile radiant. "You did it, Alex. Absolutely incredible. They'll never forget you." But my mind was elsewhere, on Emma, on the secret I had exposed, on the thrill and terror that had consumed me for hours. I had faced the ultimate test of transformation, performance, and vulnerability. And though I had survived, the uncertainty of what came next, the reactions, the consequences, the exposure, loomed larger than ever. That night, as I lay in bed, I replayed every moment, the slip of the wig, the balancing act on heels, the crashing prop, Emma's gaze. My body tingled with adrenaline, my mind raced with possibilities, and I realized that the climax of my journey wasn't just on the stage, it was only beginning. I had crossed the line from private obsession to public revelation, and the suspense of what would happen next would haunt me for days. The auditorium had emptied, leaving a ghostly quiet behind. Chairs were pushed back, the stage lights dimmed, and the applause from hours ago still echoed faintly in my ears. I lingered backstage, my wig slightly askew, costume wrinkled from the intensity of the performance, heart still racing with adrenaline. The thrill of the night's climax had left me trembling, but more than that, it had left me aware of a new reality. I had stepped fully into a persona that few had ever seen, and the consequences were unknown. Emma appeared suddenly, her silhouette framed by the doorway. My stomach dropped. She was quiet, her expression unreadable. I had no idea what she had seen, or how much she understood. The thought of revealing myself fully, of explaining the nights of private transformation and secret rehearsals, made my pulse spike. "Alex," she began softly and then paused, searching my face. Her gaze was intense, piercing, almost as if she were trying to see behind the mask I had worn on stage. I swallowed hard, unsure whether to speak, flee, or stay frozen in place. The room seemed to shrink around us, the tension crackling like static electricity.
I
don't know what to say," she finally whispered. You were amazing. But her voice faltered, and she looked away briefly, then back at me. There's something different tonight. Something I didn't expect. My chest tightened. Was it admiration?
Confusion?
Suspicion? Every emotion I could imagine flashed across her face, and I couldn't tell which one lingered the longest. I wanted to reassure her, to explain, to confess every secret, but my tongue felt heavy, paralyzed by fear and anticipation. In that moment, a sharp noise echoed from the backstage hallway. Someone else had returned. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. The shadow of another figure approached, and my heart lurched. I didn't recognize the silhouette at first, but then I realized it was Miss Thompson, holding the program folder tightly in her hands. Alex, she said, her tone calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. Can we talk?
Now.
My mind raced. Was this going to be a reprimand? A congratulation? Or something else entirely? Emma's gaze flicked between me and Miss Thompson, and I saw the same mix of curiosity and uncertainty mirrored there. My fingers instinctively clutched the hem of my dress, the sensation grounding me, and yet making me painfully aware of how exposed I felt. I took a tentative step toward her, only to hear a sudden whisper from behind the curtains. Alex, wait. Turning, I saw one of the other actors from the play, their eyes wide with a mix of excitement and dread. Did you see the audience's reaction? They asked, almost breathless. Everyone's talking about you. About you.
About me.
About Alex. About the persona I had embraced so fully that night. My mind spun. The thrill, the fear, the exhilaration, they all collided into one overwhelming sensation. I realized that nothing would ever be the same. My secret life, my transformation, my obsession with this hidden identity, it had stepped fully into the light, and I had no idea if the world would accept it. Emma finally spoke again, her voice quieter this time, almost trembling. Alex, what happens now? I froze. What did happen now? Could I maintain the delicate balance between secrecy and revelation? Could I explain the nights spent experimenting with wigs, makeup, heels, and costumes without fear, judgment, or rejection? Could I embrace this new persona fully, knowing that everyone had seen a glimpse, and that curiosity, or scrutiny, would follow me everywhere? Before I could respond, the auditorium lights flickered, plunging the backstage into partial darkness. A cold draft swept through, carrying with it a whisper of the unknown. Every shadow seemed taller, every creak louder, every heartbeat synchronized with the suspense hanging thick in the air. And then, a faint sound of a phone camera clicking. Someone was recording. I turned sharply, eyes wide. Emma stepped back, startled. Miss Thompson's expression froze, just a flicker of concern crossing her features. The other actor looked terrified. My heart hammered violently. The reality hit me with brutal clarity. The secret was out, or on the verge of being out. My transformation, my dual identity, the very part of me I had been hiding and nurturing for weeks, could be exposed to everyone, at any moment. I tried to steady my breathing, tried to force calm into my shaking limbs, but the adrenaline had me in its grip. Every instinct screamed to hide, to flee, to undo everything. And yet, a small, defiant part of me, a part that had thrived in secrecy and exhilaration, urged me to stay, to face whatever came next with courage. Emma's hand reached for mine, tentative yet reassuring. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out, she said softly. But even as her words sank in, my mind raced ahead to the unknown. Who had recorded the scene? What would they do with it? Would my transformation become a spectacle, a joke, or something more complicated? Admiration, fascination, even obsession? The tension was unbearable. Every possibility seemed both terrifying and thrilling. My dual identity, the heroine I had become, the Alex that had lived in secret, it all hung in the balance, poised between exposure and acceptance. And then the door to the auditorium slowly creaked open again. Another shadow appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim hallway lights. I couldn't see who it was, but the sound of their presence sent a chill down my spine. I froze, heart pounding. Emma squeezed my hand. Miss Thompson stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. The other actor whispered something incoherent behind me. And in that perfect, terrifying moment of suspense, the screen could fade to black, leaving everything unresolved. The secret, the exposure, the unknown consequences of my transformation. Would I be accepted or ridiculed? Would Emma understand or turn away? Would my secret life, my hidden obsession, finally be revealed to the world? The answers hung in the air, unanswered, unresolved, and utterly compelling.